We're going to record this so that we can post it to the website for anyone to rewatch or for people who may miss the recording. I am Marcy Fortner. I am an assessment specialist with the assessment unit at the OPI, and I will be your host today. Joining me are the rest of the assessment unit team. Dwayne Schlebaugh will be assisting me, as will Chantel Niederstadt, our NAEP state coordinator. She'll be monitoring the chat for us today. And Jacob Bartow and Chris Knoll are also be joining us today to answer questions specific about their programs. And of course, our assessment director, Ashley McGrath, is also with us today. So we would love for you folks to introduce yourselves by putting your name in the chat box for us. That would be great. If you want to include your school, you may. If you'd rather not do that, that is all right too. So before we get into the meat of the webinar, going over a little bit of Zoom meeting features for those of you who might not be really familiar with Zoom yet. On your screen in your Zoom screen, you have a microphone right down here in the bottom left corner. That's muted with a line through it. It means it's muted. So if everyone could try to keep that on mute during the webinar, that'll help cut back on background noise. If you have a question or a comment, you are welcome to, we want you to go ahead and unmute that and feel free to ask those questions. You can also put questions in the chat if you'd like, but use that microphone if you'd like to. We encourage everyone to use their video. It just kind of gives us a sense of community. If you are uncomfortable with your camera, that's okay. Don't have to have it on. I know that it sometimes does slow down bandwidth too. So for some folks, it's not, doesn't work as well, but that's where you'll find your video. Chat features right here. Again, if you'll put your name in the chat for us, that would be great. And then on the participants,
the threat assessment that we're using.
In that participants tab there, if you click on that at the bottom of the small screen listing the participants, you should see a raise hand icon and a thumbs up hand icon. So if you'd like to use those, feel free to use those as well. And we will get into the webinar now. So during today's session, we are going to learn where each of the sites and portals for all of our required state assessments are. We're going to learn how to navigate those. We'll cover how to manage user accounts in the different portals. We want to make sure that we're ensuring student data privacy. So we'll talk about the different kinds of user levels and who can create users and what kind of access those different user level accounts have. And last, we will leave the webinar with a list of resources for the assessment portals and sites so that you'll have some resources for providing assistance that you might need. So 6 required state assessments: English language arts, math, science, English learners, general assessments, alternate assessments, ACT with writing, pre-ACT, ACT state and district website, PA Next, Smarter Balanced, TIDE, Montana Testing Portal. Gets confusing. So we have a lot of sites and portals to manage and administer our assessments. So we're going to talk about all of those portals today. To get an idea of what you folks need in the field might have, I want to, if I can find it here, I have a quick poll for you. Let me see here. I think I have to stop sharing for just a moment. I'm going to pull that poll up. And I just have a quick question for you. If you could just answer that one question: of all the portals used for state assessment management, which site do you have the most questions about? And I'll just give everybody a couple minutes to answer that. Just give you just another minute or two. Looks like almost everyone is answered. So it looks like Tide maybe is the highest percentage, followed by the ACT state and district testing site. So we are going to talk about both of those sites. Won't jump into those right away. The order that we will talk about the assessments is right here. So we will start with Access for ELS, and we'll move into Smarter Balance. Then we'll talk about the portals and sites for Montana Science and alternate Montana Science assessments, the MSAA, and then the ACT with writing. So if there's a certain portal or site that you were curious about and you see it's a little bit later in the webinar, we will get to that. So we'll talk about those one at a time and review how to access them all and talk about those sites. So for Access for ELS has, excuse me, has two sites associated with the Access for ELS assessment. We have the WIDA Secure portal that's sometimes referred to as the training site. So the WIDA Secure portal is going to have test preparation, administration, and post-testing resources, test administrators manuals, training courses, webinar schedule, and also the webinar recordings. So if you miss one of those, you can also go into this portal to get the link for that recorded webinar. And the other site for the Access for ELS is the WIDA AMS, or Assessment Management System. So this is going to be your test management site and your screener site for both the Access and the screener. This one is hosted by DRC. You'll hear some people refer to this as the DRC site. DRC is actually in the URL, which is probably part of the reason for that term. So you will hear some people call that the DRC site. So user management within the two sites is going to be the same for the Access for ELS site. So as we move through the assessment portals and sites today, you'll notice that the role names are not always going to match. So what Access for ELS calls a district test coordinator, another assessment site might call just a test coordinator, or maybe an administrator. So keep that in mind as we go through the sites. That might get a little bit confusing. And at the state level use, the role designations we use at the state may also not always match the role designations for different assessment portals. So system test coordinator role at the state is designated by authorized representatives in the Teams collection. So once we have that list of system test coordinators, or STCs, we upload those to both the AMS and the secure portal. We upload those from the state. And for Access for ELS sites, that STC is called the district test coordinator in their site. So the district test coordinator, or the STC, they can create school test coordinator and test administrator accounts. They can also create the technology coordinator accounts at both the district and school level. So that, again, these roles are the same across both of those sites. So the secure portal, the training site, and there is the URL for that. So this one is going to be your before, during, and after resources for before, during, and after testing. This one is secure, so it's going to need a username and a password required to access the site. It is also going to have your training courses and your webinars, as I mentioned. So we're going to look at what the site looks like just a little bit. We're not going to dig really deep, but we are going to talk about it a little bit. So the training tiles, there's a set of training tiles for the Access for ELS and another set for the screener materials. The training is self-guided in these, and anyone with a user account can access these training tiles. So you don't have to have a system test coordinator or district test coordinator user role to access these. Any user can access them. The facilitator toolkit is one I would point out for our STCs that may be helpful to train locally. That has resources that you can use to facilitate training at your schools and districts. So those training courses are going to be found in that portal. And then in the AMS, this is where your test management is going to take place. So again, AMS, Assessment Management System, and there's the URL there for this test, or this site, sorry. Again, also secure, so username and password required. Student management is going to happen here. Manage test sessions. You can check on the status of your materials. You can order additional materials. You will also manage your return materials here. In addition to score reports, once testing is completed, you can also track testing activity within your district or school, depending on your user level account. And the hierarchy is the same as that for the secure portal site. So your district level folks will have more access than your school level folks in this site as well. Before we go on there, any questions about the access sites? Okay, don't see anything in the chat. No questions. So we'll move on to Smarter Balanced. So Smarter Balanced Test Management is going to be located in the Montana Testing Portal. Some people are going to refer to this as the Cambium portal. Some people call it TIDE. TIDE is actually a site within this larger Montana Testing Portal, but you will hear a lot of people call it TIDE. So this portal is going to provide access for user management, summative and interim test management, score reporting. Everything is in one place. This one portal supports all of those things, but it's not the only site for Smarter Balanced Assessment. In addition to the portal, the Montana Testing Portal, the Smarter Balanced website is going to have support and resources that help understand the assessment. And Tools for Teachers site will have resources to support your formative classroom work. So while we have the one portal for assessment management, again, more than just one site. So the assessment management site, which is the Montana Testing Portal, the URL is right there. I'll pop that in the chat for you as well. So this is the assessment management site. Once you reach the site, this is what we're going to call the home page. It's going to look like this. You'll see you can actually access all of this assessments, all of this Montcast suite of assessments from this homepage. Smarter Balanced, Montana Science, and Alternate Montana Science are all housed within this portal. The other tiles there are actual external links, so you can access them, but they're not actually managed in this portal. So we're going to talk about Smarter Balanced right now. And when you are in this portal, you're going to click that Smarter Balanced link or tile, and that is going to take you to the portion of the screen here on the left. So from this screen, you'll be able to access the user management portion of the site, which is the TIDE tile. That's the one there with the people with the little gears behind them. You can also access score reporting. You can access summative and interim test management and administration here. You can access training and resources to assist with administration, all from the same screen. So one thing you're going to notice on most of those tiles is the little red padlock. So that little red padlock indicates that those tiles are secure, meaning you need a user account with a username and password to access what's behind the tile. So the user levels in the Montana testing portal are noted here in the right lower corner. That is going to show your user account hierarchy. In the Montana testing portal, for the most part, our system test coordinators are going to be either DAs, district administrators, or DCs, district coordinators. Those two roles actually have the same user access in the portal. So from there, our STCs or DAs, DCs, those folks can create accounts at all the levels before them, or under them, I'm sorry, below them. So a school coordinator in the Montana testing portal is likely going to be a principal or sometimes another member in a school building who will have access to all of the classrooms in that school. They're not going to have district level access. So building coordinators and principals will likely be the folks in those roles. Educators who are administering assessments in the portal are going to hold the role of either the TE or the teacher or the TA, which is the test administrator. One important thing to point out about the TE and TA role, the TA role does not have access to score reports. So as STCs are creating accounts in this portal, keep that in mind. If you want that test administrator or that educator to have access to score information, you want to make them a TE, not a TA. So TA has the least access in the portal. Tools for Teachers is a new role this year. The digital library last year has transitioned to the Tools for Teachers. Tools for Teachers is its own separate role this year, and a user can have a Tools for Teacher role in this portal and not have any other access. So for educators who may not be administering a test, but may benefit from those resources in the Tools for Teachers site, they'll have an account just to access Tools for Teachers. So that's why that's down there with the little star. It's a little bit different than the other user accounts. So within the portal, in the resources section of the portal is this user role and access to Montana comprehensive assessment systems. This user role access document will assist you in determining which role your user should have. So it's going to give you a check mark on everything that person can access. So you'll see that the TA has the very least access of everyone there. So how do you get an account in the portal? So that's going to come from your STC. If you are an STC and for some reason don't have a user account in this portal, get a hold of us at OPI at the assessment unit and we can help you with that. And it goes for the same for the access for L sites. If you're an STC and don't have access to any of the sites we talk about today, get a hold of us so that we can get that access for you, because you should have access to all of these sites. If you are not an STC, you can ask your STC for an account in the portal. Questions about user roles before we talk? We'll talk a little bit more about this portal, but any questions specific to user roles?
Marcy, this is Susan Sharkey. Hey, how are you? This sheet right here that you're showing on the screen right now, I must have blinked or something, but where did you click that up at?
It's actually in the resources tab.
Okay,
Wayne, could you pop that in the chat maybe for them? We'll get a link to that in the chat for you, Susan. Okay. It's in the resources tab in the Montana testing portal.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll see if Dwayne can maybe pull up a link for that for us.
Okay. Also,
Susan,
are you going to share this PowerPoint like last time?
Yes.
That's really super helpful.
Yeah, we'll post this on the site.
Awesome.
Dwayne, did you have a comment?
No, I'll grab that for you, Susan, and put it
Thank
here
you,
before long.
So the system test coordinator can create those accounts, as can anyone else at the district level. So as I said before, they can create accounts for equal to or below their user levels. The OPI uploads the STC list that's been designated by your authorized representative. So we're going to upload that into the portal, and then STCs will then create those accounts for the other folks in the district. A few things to note is that the STC is able to create accounts for all district and school level accounts. So the SC role, they're going to be able to create accounts for TAs and TEs at the school that they're assigned to. So if you have a building principal who is maybe a principal of both an elementary and a middle school, you want to make sure the SDC will want to be sure that that principal has an account in both schools at the school as SC, the school code, or won't be able to add accounts for both schools. And this just shows a quick view. You'll see that the TE and TA are not able to create accounts, so they don't have that one user drop down that the other roles do. So we're going to look at some of the other tiles on the portal. We're not going to dive really deep into these other tiles because we are kind of concentrating on user management today and those user roles. But just want to talk briefly about what else you can do in the Montana testing portal. So when you're ready to administer assessment, whether it's summative or interim, you're going to use this test administration tile on the Smarter Balanced home screen. That one is both for summative and interim test assessments. And the reporting tile, using this one, you can view and download student results and view score reports. This is a new tile this year. So Smarter Balanced is moving all the reporting into one reporting system. So if you remember last year, you had interim results in a different spot than your summative results. They're all going to be found in the same place now under this reporting tile. You can, like I said, you can look at your score reports. You may want to dive into the claims and targets to see how a student, a class, or a subgroup performed on a specific area of the assessment. You can do all that in this reporting tab. And the other tiles we'll just talk real quickly about, just a quick overview. There are training tiles on the portal homepage for practice and training tests, the test administration practice and training site, and then of course the test administrator certification. There's an inbox tile. The inbox is where any files or data you download when you're within the portal, that's where those are gonna save to, is in your inbox. There are a couple tiles that are specific to interims. And then there are also a couple resource tiles. So the tools for teachers, of course, is there for searching formative resources. And then there's a non-secure tile there for manuals that you'll find all of your test administration manuals in. The site right now, the homepage right now, does still have that online reporting system tile that's down there in the right-hand corner. You can still access historical data through that tile, but that will be retiring soon. Should be disappearing about the same time the summative window starts, and then that historical data will move to that new reporting tile. So that will have both your current and historical information in there. Questions on Smarter before we move over to science? Okay, so the Montana Science Assessment and the alternate Montana Science Assessment, those are also going to be found in your Montana testing portal. Your test management will also be in that same portal. They have their own tiles to enter the tests and the test management. So on the left is going to be the homepage for the Montana Science Assessment. You're going to see very, very similar tiles there as you do for Smarter Balanced. One tile that's different there is the sample science items, but the other tiles here are going to be very, very similar. One thing to note about the Montana Testing Portal is if you have a user account at any level, it's going to spread across assessments. So you don't have to have a different account for science and a different account for Smarter Balance and a different account for the alternate Montana Science. If you have a Montana Testing Portal user account, that account is good for across the assessments. And yes, clarify the grade levels for science. It is 5, 8, and 11. So grade 11 science is going to be covered by the ACT unless the student is an alternate, and then it's going to be the MSAA. I'm sorry, the alternate science. If it's the ELA and math is alternate is MSAA, but the science is 5, 8, and 11. And then the right-hand side of the screen shows your tiles for the alternate Montana Science Assessment. No interim for the alternate, at least not at this point. So questions about Montana Science or alternate Montana Science? All right, we will move on to MSAA. So the MSAA system, I will put that link in the chat for you as well. The URL is there. So the MSAA is, there are 2 sites for the MSAA, but all the test management is going to happen just in this one site. It is secure. So again, it's going to require that username and password. Everything in one place for test management. The second site, the consortia site, is going to have some resources that can assist you in prepping for a test. The MSAA, if you're interested in that. The MSAA system is currently down. It will be accessible by users in March. The OPI, again, will upload the list of STCs to the site. When it opens, you will receive an email that your account has been created, and you will then go in and set up those user accounts for your test administrators. Before we move on into the details of the MSAA, there's a question there that Chris, I'm hoping Chris can answer. Chris, they're wondering how long the interim science assessment is.
The interim, there's a bunch of different interim science assessments. They're aligned to the science standards. And so I have not taken all of them to be able to say, but they vary based on the subject matter, I think, how long it would take kids to take them. But there are many different science interim assessments to kind of address the range of topics kids would be learning about at different grade levels.
Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Kathy, in relaying it to Smarter Balance terms, which, sorry, I probably shouldn't, but with the Smarter Guide, that's what I'm doing, is maybe one way to compare it is think of them as the focused interim assessment blocks. The small block of interims, that's about what you're looking at with the science interims.
Great, thank you, Dwayne and Chris. So back to MSAA. The MSAA site, we're going to concentrate on the user management area of the MSAA site, but the tabs that you're going to see within that site are the test status summary, which is where users can manage testing and check on test status. The student tab, which is the management area for a student. OPI uploads those students as well as we do in the other portals. Sample items to view sample items for the assessment. There's an organizations tab. That's a list of the schools attached to the district. The district is considered an organization in the MSAA site, and the user tab, and that's the area that we're going to talk about. I do know that there is some concern about the MSAA site opening so late. There's not a lot of time before the window after that opens. So for people who, for educators, STCs, TAs who are interested in preparing for testing before that site opens, you can go to the consortia site. Let me put that in the chat for you as well. So the consortia site is going to have sample items and best practices, videos for best practices. It's got writing rubrics. So there are some resources available there for you to prepare for testing before that site opens if you are interested in that. I know that is a bit of a concern for some people. And this NCSC wiki site that I just also put in the chat, there are also some instructional supports and resources for the MSA on that site. So if you are nervous about that site opening so late, you can check out those other websites. So the user hierarchy in the MSAA system is a little bit less detailed than that in the Montana Testing Portal. So we only have 2 user roles in the MSA system. The test coordinators, and those are going to be our STCs, and the test administrators. So just the 2 roles for this site. Again, OOPI is going to upload the STCs into the system. And once the STCs are loaded, you'll receive an email, and STCs will add accounts for the test administrators. So it's important to also review all of these sites for historical accounts that may still be remaining in those sites that maybe should be deactivated or deleted. If you have people who have left your district or people who no longer need access, it's important to kind of review those user roles and make sure people are in the appropriate role. The organization tab within MSAA is the home for the site. And then within the organization tab, STCs can access the user tab and the student tab. The users is the screen where you'll add those TA user accounts for districts and schools. And the students tab can be used to view and confirm student profiles. So questions about MSAA? All righty, we will move on to ACT. So the ACT with writing, this one is probably our assessment, probably with the most sites involved in the actual test management. So ACT launched a new website this year called Success. They're just calling it Success. It's found at success.act.org. I'll put that in the chat for you. So this new site it acts kind of like a single sign-on site. So some of the other websites for ACT test administration and management can be accessed through Success. So it gives access to Pearson Access Next or PA Next. It gives access to Test Accessibility and Accommodation site. It also gives access to their new online reporting. So they're kind of moving towards using this site as kind of their single sign-on, their main site. So if you deal with ACT and have not been to this site, I would recommend you go to that site. If you don't already have an account, create an account, use the same email address that you use for Pearson Access, and that should get you access. If you have trouble accessing this site or creating an account, please let us know and we can help you get that straightened out. In addition to the new site that ACT launched, they also created a new role called the Trusted Agent role. The Trusted Agent is usually the superintendent of the district, and that person has to give you access to the Success site. So again, if you have any trouble getting into that site or creating an account in there, let us know and we can get some help for you to either find out who your trusted agent is so you can get that pin from them, or we can get you listed as a trusted agent so you can have access to that site. The other sites involved with ACT with writing are the Pearson Access Next, which is PA Next. That is a secure site. This is the test and student management site for the ACT with writing. And the TAA, or the Test Accessibility and Accommodation site. This one is the site to manage accommodations and or supports for your students who need those. So both of those are secure. They both require a username and password. They are different usernames and passwords for the two different sites. And then the public site, I call it public because it's just not secure, the ACT State and District Testing Montana page. So that page has some really great resources, guides, assistance. Do not need a password for that one, a username and password. So it has a lot of resources for you, though. I would highly encourage you to bookmark that one as well if you don't already have that bookmarked. So we're going to talk about each of those sites a little bit. Pearson Access Next is the test management site. So this is your management site for both online and paper testing. It's your student management and your user management site. PA Next has four user roles. There are the district coordinator, the test administrator, the room supervisor, and the technology coordinator. So for Pearson Access, they split those users into two different user groups. There's contacts and there's users. So contacts receive ACT communications directly from them. They must be a user before they can be a contact. Only two can be entered into the system at a time, and those are the district test coordinator and the test administrator. The additional users are the room supervisors and technology coordinators. So they can perform tasks in PA Next, limited tasks, but they do not receive the communications directly from ACT. The district test coordinator is going to be the person who manages the user roles in Pearson Access Next. And again, the OPI uploads the system test coordinators to the system as DTCs, district test coordinators. The DTCs can then create those other accounts for folks in their district. So if there is an ACT test coordinator at the district, they can be added as a user. I know a lot of our small schools, that test administrator and that district test coordinator are one and the same person. But if there is an additional person you want those ACT communications to come to, you can definitely add them as at that test administrator role. Now there are two steps to adding users in PA Next. So you have to add them as a user and also as a contact. So a little bit confusing. It seems like you could just add them as a user and they would automatically also be a contact, but you actually have to do 2 steps there for that role. Within the PA Next site, the tabs that you're going to see in there are the Setup tab. So the Setup tab is used for student management and materials ordering, in addition to the user management. Tasks under that item is assigned by ACT, and the contacts will receive communication about when and how to complete those. The testing icon or section is that one's only going to be used for systems electing to administer the online test. So if you're only doing paper, you won't need to use that testing section. And the report section that's where you're going to find your reports. Your score reports are not going to be in here. They have moved from PA Next into the new Success site and the online reporting. But you do have student and registration reports, online testing reports. They're not the score reports, but reports for who's testing online. Your orders and shipment tracking reports are also going to be found in that reports tab. Jody, no numbers in the icon 2 weeks ago. Who loads the numbers? Okay, so verify enrollment. Okay, so verify enrollment. The communication ACT sent out a couple weeks ago was a little bit misleading, a little bit confusing. At the very top of that communication, there is a sentence that says, after the state uploads your students, you can verify enrollment. So they neglected to tell you, though, that we don't do that student upload until mid-December. So you're not going to see any students in Pearson Access Next until mid to late December, Jody. And after that time, then you can go in and do that verify enrollment. The deadline for that isn't until late in January. So you'll have plenty of time to do that. And I apologize for the confusion. It would have been better for that communication to go out a little bit later, a little closer to the middle of December. So I apologize for that. But yeah, you will not have to upload those yourself. I know I've had some folks contacting us wondering if they have to do that upload manually, and you do not. So if you just wait until mid to late December, then those students will populate in the system for you. We do it a little bit later to have that student data just as complete as we can. Any other questions about Pearson Access Next? How do we disenroll a student for ACT from ACT for alt? So there is a task called enroll/unenroll in Pearson Access Next. Or you may be talking about the TAA site as well, Charla. I'm not sure how we disenroll them from TAA. I believe that when you unenroll from Pearson Access, it will pull them out of TAA, but we can definitely work on that. Let me check with ACT for you, because that student might be showing up in the TAA site. And if they
remember, we've had issues with that where they won't show up in the MSAA system as needing alternative testing if they're a junior because they're already enrolled in ACT and there's something funky that we have to do. And I do it so few and far between that I can never remember the steps, but there's something that has to specifically be done to disenroll or unenroll a student out of ACT. Okay. So that then they will start showing up in the alternative testing platforms.
Okay, perfect. I'm just making a note here. I will check with ACT on doing that. I'm sure it's just that unenroll process, but because there's no students in the system yet, we can't unenroll them. So let me check with them, and I may give you a call and get that student information from you too. That would help us get that done sooner.
Hey, Charlotte, just to jump in on the MSAA site of when I upload students to the site, Math ELA alternates, including 11th graders, your juniors, who you're talking about. I know this just for context. I know when I'm pulling them from AIM, the only determiner that I have in knowing who they are is they are identified at the district level as being an alternate, being qualified for alternate assessments. So that is the only indication we have that pulls them out. If they are not, and that may be what you're talking about as what needs to be done, because that's the only indicator on our end, what puts them into the alternate assessment portal.
I know they have also made some updates to the AIM to Infinite Campus too on some of those alternate flag screens. So I'll visit with them as well and see if that's might help with the 11th grade issue. So I know they've been making updates to that alternate flag in those Infinite Campus screens. But I do have a note here, so we'll get that fixed for you. So the ACT State and District Testing Montana page, this is going to be your contract page for ACT. Put that in the chat for you. There we go. The ACT State and District page is going to have, like I said, just a wealth of information, lots of resources in there. It's going to have ACT resources as well as pre-ACT resources. So your grade 10 students are going to be able to do the pre-ACT again this fall, or I'm sorry, this spring. So your pre-ACT information can also be found on this site. Some of the links that are really helpful and important, you're going to be able to link from here to the TAA, the Test Administration, Test Accessibility and Accommodation site, and also to Pearson Access Next. Now you can also link to those from that new Success site, but you can also link to them from here. The Schedule of Events link, this is a really excellent document. If you don't bookmark anything else here, bookmark the Schedule of Events. It walks through every date, every deadline, tells you, gives the resource needed to complete each item that's in the deadline. As you scroll down on this page, the information on the right side of the screen is going to walk through all of the different, there's resources, there's videos, there's PDFs, there's PowerPoint slide for all of these different pieces to before, during, and after testing for ACT. So the orientation, configuration, verification, and preparation, those areas are all pre-test. The administration for during testing, and then the transportation and interpretation for after testing. So all of those sections have some really great resources if you haven't kind of perused those before. And if you have any trouble with any of the tasks in ACT, they do have some great training resources in those different sections on that site. Questions about the state and district testing site? So I wanted to talk just briefly about the new online reporting site because it is new. I want to make everyone aware of that new online reporting. So previously, you got your online reporting through the Pearson Access Next site. You're now going to get all of your reporting on their new online reporting site. The online reporting is going to be accessed via that success.act.org, that new single sign-on site. And when you log into that, that's what the tile looks like that you're going to click on, the ACT test scores and reports. That does already have historical data in it. If you administered the fall test to your seniors. Most of those are already populating in that online reporting site. If you tested on the 20th, there's probably still some that aren't showing up yet, but almost all of the October 6th reports are in the site, and some of the 20th are already popping up in there. But there is historical data in there, so you can pull that up as well. The other thing that's really nice about this online reporting site is there's a lot of different ways to look at that data. They've really done a really good job on this online reporting site. So many different filters, a lot of different ways you can look at that data. So if you have not checked that out yet, yeah, I would encourage you to do that. They did a great job on it. Again, if you have any trouble accessing that, let us know. You do have to have that trusted agent approval, or there's a PIN number or a code that you have to get from your trusted agent. So if you have any trouble with that, let us know. We can get you access to that as well. And I'm going to open it up for questions now. We've got just almost 10 minutes left for questions or comments. I'm just going to leave this slide up for a minute to just the helplines to the different assessment centers. I am also going to put the renewal unit evaluation form link in the chat right there. If you want a renewal unit for today's webinar, you can click on that link and fill out that Google form, and we'll get you a renewal unit sent. So any questions, we'll open it up to, they don't have to be specific about user accounts if you have questions about any of the assessments.
Marcy, I was wondering if we figured out any more about how, if we were going to do ACT paper and both online within our school, how to manage that when we go to sign up.
I don't have a lot of details about that yet, Tara. I do know that if you are undecided right now, you can put dates for both online and paper, and you are not committed to that at this point. So I know I talked to another school earlier today, and they're still on the fence about whether they want to do online. So they actually, in the managed participation, they put a date in both boxes, and they're gonna think about it and try to decide. But I'll see if I can't get you some more information about how to manage that. Because
that's what I did mark both,
Okay.
both paper and online when I went in to manage. It's just
yeah, and ACT has been very clear that we can use a combination. I'm just not sure how that's
how to do it.
Yeah,
That's fine. I just wanted to check with you since I had you
yeah.
right there.
I'll make a note here though when I get some more information to get that to you too.
Thanks a lot, Marcy.
You bet. Jacob is wondering, SBAC and MSA interim assessments still available to be given remotely without the secure browser for the foreseeable future? I think Dwayne can probably answer that for us.
Jake, that is correct. They will be available into the foreseeable future, at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. I just have some remote teachers that we're looking to start using the Smarter Balance interim. So just wanted to make sure.
Yep. And if you have one of the things, maybe I'll just shoot it over to you. Sometimes some of the little glitch in there is if students don't have the URL. If the URL isn't readily listed there on that site, I'm just going to put it down as a note here, Jake, and just forward you that URL just in case if you don't have it that way. If they're going to ask you, well, if students don't have a secure browser, where do they log in? And I'll just it's essentially Cambium AST / instead of the portal. It just says student, but I'll send you that.
Thank you. Really help. Appreciate it.
And I will pop up our assessment help desk information as well.
Marcy, that is you.
She was on it. She muted in plenty of time right there.
Well, I am going to go ahead and end the recording now. And you are welcome if you have any other questions. Oh, there's one for you, Jacob. Can the access be done remotely?
Great question that we get a lot. The answer is no. There simply does not exist a remote access test. Right now, our best advice is to bring students into school in very small batches to administer the test if possible. We have extended the test window from December 2nd, 2020 to February 26th, 2021. So we've extended that by 4 weeks to allow for that because there are concerns about how long it can take to complete that testing. But there is no remote test at the moment.
And Ashley did just put our COVID testing guidance there in the chat as well. If you want to check that out, there's some information there, some resources that may help you.